James Harden definitely had a pregame meal, averaging 17 points per game over the last four.
Wait, what was that?
James Harden definitely had a pregame meal.
No, not that. The other part.
Averaging 17 points per game over the last four.
You see, while most people are fixated on the fact that an announcer decided to make a joke at James Harden's expense, which, by the way, I can't talk crap. I've made entire videos on how fat James Harden has become. And believe it or not, that's actually going to be a little bit of a thing that we're going to be touching upon on this video. But things in Houston are really, really bad. And I don't even think it's necessarily the Houston Rockets' fault. As a matter of fact, it's way deeper than that. So before we get to the content, I just want to shout out our latest Mike Mafia soldier, Austin Chakarian. We're also giving away a PlayStation 5 to a lucky subscriber that subscribes to the channel and hits that notification bell. It doesn't matter if you've been subscribed to me about a year and a half ago, or if you're a brand new subscriber, so long as you subscribe and hit that notification bell, you have entered for a chance to win a PS5. If you want additional entries, then just follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro.
Turn it over so they won't get the shot. As we say that, it'll be an easy. Oh! Blows the layup.
There is an art to that. LeBron James.
They're cutting up now. They're cutting up now. They're having too much fun now. They're cutting.
Kind of night, B. Haywood, that LeBron James, and a double and a pump fake before that.
End of the day, a lot of guys here want to compete at a high level. And like I told everybody tonight, and I told the guys before, when the 1 through 15 guys all on the same page, they commit, they know their role, they know what they want to do, they know what they want to get out of this, and that's the win, you all will be fine. But when you have certain guys in the mix that don't want to buy in all as one, it's going to be hard to do anything special, do anything good as a basketball team. I've been on those teams. In my 11 years been in the league, I've been on a team like that my first 5 years where it was all about me, not about the team, and that hurts, and it brings everybody down. So when we can get all on the same page, we can be something good here, and we can't dwell down on it because it's only been 9 games. Like, come on, man, we want to jump off the cliff off of 9 games? There's a lot of basketball still be played.
It doesn't take a genius to know who John Wall is referring to, and that clearly is going to be shown when I give you James Harden's interview very shortly after. If you paid attention to the game tonight between the Houston Rockets and the Los Angeles Lakers, I absolutely hate to say this about any team, because typically when a team loses to another team, it clearly has to do more with game planning. It has to do with specific adjustments that were made. Maybe one team's coach outcoached the other team's coach. But for this one instance, it is so clear that there is one member of the Houston Rockets that's holding the rest of the team back, and that member is clearly James Harden. Look at this clip in front of you guys. You see, the score currently is 18-6, and there's 5 minutes and 38 seconds left in the first quarter. Sure, at this point, your eyes are fixated on John Wall, and yeah, you may be looking at John Wall quickly turning his head around just to see where a specific player of the Houston Rockets is, James Harden. And if you look at James Harden's body language, not only is he just slowly walking down the court in the beginning of the clip, but he's sitting at the half-court line. You can't even see him in the picture. That's how far back he is. The Houston Rockets are essentially playing 4-on-5. James Harden quit on the Houston Rockets versus the Los Angeles Lakers in the very first quarter. And then listen to this interview that James Harden gives at the end of the game. It sounded like he already had an agenda coming into this game.
We're just not good enough. You know, we don't obviously chemistry, talent-wise, just everything. And it was clear, like I said, these last few games, they just, you know, from the beginning of the game, they were just aggressive. veteran team, obviously, championship team, and one of the best teams that we have in this league. I love this city. I literally, have done everything that I can. This situation is crazy. It's something that I don't think can be fixed. So, yeah. Thanks.
So let me give you a brief little history lesson over here, all right? James Harden gets Chris Paul as a teammate. We're not even going to talk about Dwight Howard because that's a completely separate story. I believe Dwight Howard didn't even play to his strengths, and if he did, James Harden may have had a championship, but for some reason, Dwight Howard loved playing in the post during that era instead of playing in the pick and roll, and as a result, I don't think James Harden and Dwight Howard ever fulfilled their potential, and this is coming from a Laker fan that at the time absolutely despised Dwight Howard. But then you go to the Chris Paul era, and the first year they performed remarkably well. James Harden would isolate in certain situations while Chris Paul would run the pick and roll. And then in the second year, when things got a little tough, James Harden literally demanded that the Houston Rockets either traded him or Chris Paul. Now you get into this situation where the Houston Rockets' hands were tied. So they shipped away Chris Paul, 2 first-round picks, and 2 first-round pick swaps to the OKC for Russell Westbrook for a player that's essentially a significant downgrade in terms of schematic fit. A player that he was once teammates with on the OKC Thunder and a fellow former MVP to join him in Houston. Russell Westbrook straight up showed up and saw the way things were being run in Houston, saw how James Harden would be late to film sessions, and said, I can't do this anymore. Trade me in general. I don't want to be here anymore. The Houston Rockets, through all of James Harden's antics, through all of his craziness, through the fact that he gave him a ton of rope because he performed really well. And he's a remarkable player. And despite James Harden wanting to be traded, the Rockets still went out and were active. They brought in John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. They brought in Christian Wood. They have a pretty good team, and they made some good adjustments to potentially give James Harden a chance this year. But James Harden went 4 straight games, averaging 17 points per game, with another putrid performance tonight. And this isn't because something is off. This is because he's just not inspired and is not buying into the team. He's essentially quitting on his own team. And here's where I think James Harden's making the biggest mistake of his career, because I think he's a remarkably talented player. I think he could potentially be the greatest scorer, if not already the greatest scorer in NBA history, but he's making a huge mistake here, reiterating his desire for a trade. Where is he going to go that could potentially give him a better situation than here? The Houston Rockets are willing to put up with the fact that he could act out at times. And we made a whole video on this in the past on the exact length that James Harden would go to in order to attend specific events. Even earlier, before training camp, James Harden was partying in multiple scenarios. First with Lil Baby, then during Christmas time, he went to a restaurant or a club, and it just appears to be getting worse and worse. Meanwhile, he's also hurting his own trade value, which affects the Houston Rockets' ability to even find him a trade partner. But imagine being another team and watching what's going on with James Harden. It didn't work out with Dwight Howard, it didn't work out with Chris Paul, it didn't work out with Russell Westbrook, and he doesn't even want to give John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and Christian Wood and Steven Silas 10 games to figure it out. What does that tell you about the guy as a teammate? Maybe I'm being a little harsh on him, and I want you guys to let me know in the comment section down below if I am being harsh on him. But I believe that once James Harden goes to a different team, he's going to absolutely regret it, because there's no team that has literally given him whatever he wants to the extent that Houston did. And if he goes to a team where 2 other superstars potentially hold him accountable, say the Brooklyn Nets are able to swing a trade for him, or I don't even know what other team could potentially swing a trade for him, maybe the Philadelphia 76ers, but why would the Sixers blow up what they have if they're performing so well? They're the 2nd best team in the entire NBA. Why mess with that? If all of his teammates are saying that he's the reason why we're not succeeding because he doesn't want to even give them a chance, what makes you think any other team would want to take him in? He's too volatile. He showed up to games overweight, for crying out loud. You think out of nowhere he's going to be motivated once he goes to a different team? I don't know. I don't want this to get too ranty. This is just the way I see it from my perspective, but maybe you guys have a different take, and I want to hear your guys' take either on Twitter, Instagram, or in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.